Hello. Good afternoon, everyone. You guys are all wrong here. You guys all got to stand up and you got to follow the sign.
Oh,
there you
okay.
go. And there you go. Raquel, you got to get over here. And there you go. There you go.
Okay, this
There
is
you
my
go.
good side.
There you go. I would have been asking you questions, Raquel, that you would have had no idea what the heck I was talking about. I'm sure she'd do fine. She would do fine, no doubt. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Hope everybody enjoyed their lunch. My name is Mark Papia. I'm with Big Dog Integration. I've been helping the OTT.X team with content for this event, and it's been thrilling to do so. One of my tasks has been to create some programming that would bring more media people to the event, and I think we did a great job this year creating a track separate and distinct from the content the content track that has long been a staple for this program. As you could see, we have a distinguished panel of agency executives and a data executive, and we're going to really hone in over the course of the next 40 minutes on how OTT changed the advertising game for planners and buyers alike. And we're really going to go down the line, but before we start that process, I think we could all agree that OTT has changed the process for media planners and buyers, correct?
Agreed.
Beautiful. So, Raquel, one of the things that you talked about this morning in your keynote, and was that an incredible keynote presentation, everybody? I mean, it's really awesome. But one of the things that you made clear is that with OTT, there's a lot more science to the art of TV advertising. And in 2020, you were telling us earlier that you embarked upon a process of bringing programmatic in-house at R² Media. So before 2020, you were using third parties to process programmatic advertising, and in 2020, brought that in-house. Why did you do that?
Well, Mark, thanks for the question. You know, it seems like such a short time ago, but at the same time, 4 years ago have passed since COVID, and I think many of us remember in the advertising industry, man, some of my clients thought they were going to go out of business. I remember asking them, you know, have you been in business the last 40 years? Are you planning on being in business a decade from now? And I mean, by the look in their eyes, I think some of them really thought it was the end. And so we as an agency back then, we had been in business for 10 plus years, and a large amount of our ad revenue came from the media that we booked month in and month out for our clients and the creative that we made. And let me tell you, the number of times we did shoots for clients, it's like, okay, let's do one shoot where they're wearing masks. Now, okay, do another one, take the masks off. Okay, now some will have masks and some won't. We don't want to be tone deaf, right? Oh my gosh, fun days. But I looked at the industry, and there was one thing that was clear, and that was people were spending a heck of a lot of time at home watching OTT. And I thought about it, and as many of our clients worried if they would make sales again or keep their doors open, I said, this is a time that we need to take it up a step. A lot of companies are not wanting to take risks right now. They're just shuttering down and trying to ride through the storm. But we took a risk, and we looked at it from an opportunity of this. If we want to deliver the best to our clients, we need to have full control. We can't just have a managed service out there working with a DSP whenever they feel like helping us, talking about targeting capabilities or attribution models. We need all hands on deck. And taking it in-house has paid off big time, but it's also that confidence of being able to look our clients in the eye and say, we know what's going on every hour, every minute with your campaigns. We can get your campaign live within a matter of an hour, whereas waiting days before. We can go this way, we can do A/B testing, we can have somebody looking at campaigns over the weekend. I mean, I hate to say it, but I can't tell you how many times we would work with a managed service provider, you know, when we talk about layering on this data and this and then attribution, and no disrespect to age, but I mean, I'm talking to somebody who's just graduated college, this is their first job, they're like, oh yeah, we can do all this targeting. And I'm looking at our pacing and I'm going, we're never gonna spend this money, what's going on? And he's going, that's weird, I don't know. Yeah, because we're targeting in the LADMA 10 people, you know, because we've targeted so much. So bringing it in-house during a time when a lot of companies were scared if they were in business, it was a risk, but it was a great reward because we had that autonomy and we had the flexibility to really put our clients first.
Perfect. Jeff, you and I have spoken about the ambition of programmatic versus the reality.
Yeah, let's think about this. Programmatic is not what we buy. Programmatic is how we buy it. It's a process for securing and targeting inventory. But it's also almost ceded some of the control of a media planner to an algorithm, to a system, to machine learning, to the data that you put in. And there's a lot of doubt as to the validity, and I'm sure Chip will talk about this, but a lot of the data that goes into these things. So 100% agree, as an agency, we have to do and manage programmatic in-house and have to have hands-on keyboard to do that. But we also have to remember how to be media planners again, and thinking about user journeys and consumers and what they do, the content that they consume, how they go from waking up one morning not knowing they need a new Ford F-150 pickup to the afternoon to say, let me research pickups, or let me think about that. Let me think about that journey that gets from awareness all the way down to purchase. So a lot of agencies kind of move to that performance end of the spectrum, and we're hands on keyboard, and then clients are starting to realize, well, why isn't my brand growing anymore? Why aren't consumers searching on my brand terms? Why aren't I getting the clicks I used to? And what you know, kind of raise your hand and say is, we've got to remember what it is to be media planners and not just programmatic buyers. So I think agents, I'm sure you would agree within your agency, have to think about the full marketing funnel, think about consumers and their behaviors, and not just think about them as digits, as IP addresses, or as cookies, or as things like that. And where OTT starts coming into this is, you know, we've known for a long time that TV advertising works. TV advertising creates brand awareness, creates consideration. It drives purchase. And while most of us would say, well, I don't watch the commercials, the reality is we all watch the commercials and they're impactful. And we started to see a horizon where TV viewership is declining, linear TV viewership is declining, people aren't watching commercials, people aren't seeing the value of that sight, sound, motion to learn and understand our brands and what our clients are selling. So what OTT has done is gotten people back in front of both the big screen and the little screen and every screen in between, and are consuming phenomenal content, and they're watching the ads that our clients put on there. Some of it is force viewing, some of it's skipped, some of it's whatever, but now we have this phenomenally powerful, trackable medium that people are learning about our clients' products, that are, you know, saying, hey, that F-150 can climb mountains, I want to climb a mountain. You know, TV and that big screen, that 55 to now 85 or 105-inch screen in the living room is an extremely powerful advertising medium. OTT has gotten people back in front of the screens and put our clients' commercials back in front of them. And now we have, you know, better targeting, better attribution, and better ways to get our clients' ads in front of these audiences. So that's what I like about OTT. So
what I'm hearing is that programmatic has enhanced the buying process, the media buying process, but it's actually diminished the media planning process.
Yeah, I think so, and I think that, you know, behooves the industry to think about the full funnel, what plans are doing, where consumers are, who they are, and you might end up executing your buy programmatically, but you're still thinking holistically about consumers and their journey.
Beautiful. So Brian, you probably more so than anybody on the panel thinks of OTT and connected TV through the entirety of the marketing funnel. Many people, myself included, a part-time media buyer, realize that conversions can be driven through connected TV. Do you believe that connected TV is a full funnel tactic? And if so, how did it become this end-all and be-all?
Yeah, absolutely. Traction is a full-service agency. We have both B2B, ABM, and B2C clients, domestic and international, and OTT, CTV is definitely an anchor to, you know, any of our clients' media plans that support it. When we plan for our clients, we actually, you talk about the funnel, we have a process centered around journey mapping. So first we understand the target segments that we want to scale, both acquisition and retention, and then we map their customer journey across different media, you know, consumption patterns, and we architect the plan based on that. And what's nice about the OTT space and kind of what's it's evolved into, including, you know, the ability to onboard data, like take a client's first-party data and build a lookalike model. We were just talking about this. I'd rather do that than try to compete with like a 50% match rate or 70% unmatch rate on LiveRamp or something like that. But it is, just regardless of any of those targeting features, a really effective way to hit full funnel. And when we plan, we'll plan video and we'll plan audio. So, you know, audio oftentimes have a digital and a terrestrial component to it, depending on client needs and objectives. And then same thing with video, of digital video, oftentimes linear. You know, if our audience is high indexing on Jeopardy, we want to be on Jeopardy on any device, on any, you know, any access point with the right reach and frequency. So it's just, it really comes down to the audience and trying to be channel agnostic. I would say OTT allows us to do that really efficiently.
So many agencies today consider connected TV to be the tip of the proverbial spear. The first foray when it comes to contacting the customer, and that's probably because of the full funnel application that you're talking about. Do you agree that connected TV is the tip of the spear? And are you, when you're doing your campaigns, do you back up connected TV programs with digital display, with streaming audio, with other types of tactics?
Yeah, 100%. I would agree. It is the tip of the spear. I think, you know, 5+ years ago, more like programmatic display and looking at cross-device, you know, penetration and efficiencies for reach and frequency was the tip, and it really, digital video, and just call it video, it really is where we want to be. That's the most immersive creative experience. It's the best opportunity to make a real connection with your audience and break through. And, you know, from a creative standpoint too, you know, it's not always an opportunity with the client. It depends on what's available from a creative standpoint, but it's always our preference to have creative tailored to different, you know, points in funnel. And then the other channels would be structured to complement that video plan, where oftentimes OTT is at the center of it.
Perfect. So Chip, we're going to talk a little about data now, and you sit in an enviable chair in that you work with many big brands, and you also work with many large publishers, you know, namely Paramount, Dish. So what you do with your publishers and with your brands is you create identity graphs for the consumers who engage with the brands or with the publisher. Talk to us a little bit about the importance of understanding the authenticity of the user and these aggregate graphs that are all important to the advertising and marketing opportunity.
Yeah, sure. So just a quick correction, we don't actually supply the identity graph. What Truthset does is we've set out to measure the accuracy of data. So it's sort of a big project, right? Everyone uses data and just sort of accepts it for what it is. In some cases, they'll do some internal testing and try and figure it out through their own first-party data and measure the accuracy of some of these massive data assets that they're working with. But there's never been a true company that specializes in the validation of data. And so that's what we're doing. And our clients are all the major data providers in the industry, but we're not a data company. We work with them individually to help them understand the accuracy of their data. And that started with attributes, so all the core demo attributes, and then all advanced attributes as well. And then it quickly grew, because of the CTV space, into identity. And so what we learned is, you know, if you just take a step back, right, you talked about the pandemic, sure, OTT, streaming, DDL, whatever you want to call it, is on the rise, right? Because people are now wanting they have the bandwidth and they have the opportunity to see everything they want to have at their fingertips. And so that's created, when we look at the slide, this incredible opportunity, right? So did it shift the industry? Sure, because everyone wants to be on the television and they want to be on the television with great data. And now all the eyeballs are there, and you can actually target with accuracy based on data. So it's awesome, and you can do it programmatically. I look at this space and I see, you know, an incredible opportunity, but also I would say, you know, a pretty big warning, because the way that we look at, you know, the open web is, most of the publishers have lost a lot of the value that started out in the early days, and it all sort of went to the walled garden. So if you look at Amazon, or you look at Google, or you look at Netflix, or anyone with a registered user, they don't have to go through any of the supply chain garbage that the open web has to go through. They don't have to worry about IDR connectivity or the accuracy of an audience. They just know emphatically, and they can focus, and they have 10,000 data points that they can make upon any one consumer. If I go to Amazon, they can serve me the perfect ad, because they know everything that I've shopped and everything I've purchased over the X amount of years. They know what I watched on Prime, et cetera. So I say it's a warning, because we can't keep going down the same path and assume that, you know, what happened in the open web and the transition of revenue from the open web to the walled gardens isn't going to happen in OTT. Like, it absolutely is. It's already happening. You could just take a look at what's happening on YouTube or with Prime or whatnot. I say it's a warning in that, like, you have to understand who your audience is. Like, as a publisher, you absolutely have to begin to think about strategies around authenticating the audience, because if you don't know who they are, the handicaps that are available today with cookies and maids are, you know, going to be gone by the end of the year, and you will be able to monetize a registered audience member 10x than what you'd be able to register someone who you don't know anything about, and soon, without, you know, cookies and maids, will know absolutely nothing about.
You know, when it comes to authenticating audiences, when it comes to data enhancements, some people get nervous, because with improvements come additional costs. Are you starting to hear any of that in conversations that you're having?
Yeah, sure. I mean, if you don't, you're likely going to go out of business, right? So there's going to be a cost to that too. So you can look at costs however you want. I think, you know, the conversations that I think are most interesting are the ones around, you know, strategically, what is it going to take to get me to where I want to be as a business? So I need to authenticate that audience. I need to create a value exchange so that they want to opt in, right? I need to ask permissions about what I can do with their data. I need to do it in a responsible way. Because like right on the heels of getting that authenticity or logged in user is going to be, do you have the rights to actually reach out to them? And these are all really healthy things. I mean, I know that they're somewhat terrifying if you've never had to do that or you build, you know, your audience without it. But like the second you realize that you're going to have the same effectiveness as Instagram, and your ROI is going to go through the roof, then the advertisers, like the whole ecosystem gets better, right? Like people that are viewing your content want to come back because they're not getting bombarded with, I mean, our CEO, you know, just rented a house down in Laguna, and we were laughing about it because somehow, I don't know what happened, but the IP registered him as Hispanic, and all of the ads he was getting were in Spanish. And we were just laughing about, like, you know, when you are relying upon a broken ecosystem of IP to postal and postal to hem and hem to these attributes, you realize that, you know, I can tell you, because we've been doing it for 4 years, like the actual data set starts out at like 20 to 30% wrong. Sometimes up to 60, depending on your provider. And then you have to associate it to an email, and then you have to associate it to a household. We did a study in Q3 of last year with SIM, and we did analysis of the entire identity industry and their ability to put the right person or email in the right household. And on average, they were 51% accurate, right? So that's just getting the right person in the right household. And then if you try and add an IP, which is like the whole world is running on IP right now, which is also terrifying because it's probably the next to go, that accuracy is largely comparable or worse.
Well, even getting to 51% is not inexpensive, right? So how much do you want to pay to get to 51% accuracy? But I thought it was interesting, just talking earlier, how you're working directly with clients to build their own identity graph. And most of my career was client side, about 20 years, and Citibank, Experian, Nordstrom, we each of those examples, we had pretty concerted, like, big budget efforts to constantly enhance the MarTech stack, build out our internal data ecosystem, and be able to activate in, you know, paid known channels with a really tight audience matrix. But I mean, that's just, it's not even really there yet, but it's a lot better than it was, you know, 5+ years ago, right?
Yeah, certainly. The big brands are going to have a huge advantage in their ability to invest in tech. But I would say even if you don't, like most brands have a good understanding of their first-party data, right? They know who their customers are. I think, you know, in a sense, the power that was sitting in the middle of the ad tech world, right, is now getting pushed out to the publishers who have a relationship and the brands that have a relationship. And the responsibility to sort of steward that relationship, you know, can be expensive, but also it's the core customer of your product. So as they mature and hold on to those relationships, you know, we'll see like this sort of void that happens in the middle in the ad tech landscape.
Well, you're also seeing, we'll call them private marketplaces, but now a huge expansion in private marketplaces. So people taking a page from Amazon's e-retail network, and then Walmart, and then Kroger. United Airlines is launching their own media network, so they'll have all of your travel data, and they'll use that to serve ads. JP Morgan Chase, launching a media network. So you're kind of seeing that, you know, where the value of third-party data continues to go down, there is still this kind of second-party data relationship that all of these brands that have massive consumer relationships and massive database based on spending or travel or whatever are now going to enable you to activate that. So the two biggest, newest booths that'll be at Cannes this year will be United Airlines selling their media network, and JP Morgan Chase is going to have one selling. So I 100% agree, walled gardens, but now it's going to be 30 walled gardens as opposed to 4 or whatever. And I think as a media buyer and planner, now it starts kind of opening up different worlds. And am I going to go into the Chase network or pull that data in? And it's going to start changing. Maybe I want to go to Chase if I'm looking for financial clients or that type of data, or United for travel. So it's going to be a very complex world in terms of which one of these gardens you're going to want to play in. And then how do you merge data across them? How do you track across them? So, things are just going to get more complicated, to say the least.
I mean, we've seen that in automotive. It's, the largest industry in our country. And, in individual dealership, obviously the manufacturer itself now controls that dealership's website. So they have access to every bit of information that comes through. And they can sell to REI. Oh, you're interested in a Jeep Wrangler? Well, you'll be an REI customer then. So it is interesting, but I think the other thing that brands and agencies really need to take accountability and responsibility for is managing their own customer data, because I can't tell you how often we go into a situation where, let's say it's a retail establishment, and you talked about Nordstrom. I mean, they're keying in information on their customers every day, and you've got somebody keying in fake email addresses for every transaction for an entire month. And so it's disappointing when you think about, we spent so much time and effort on data, is it first party, second party, lookalike audiences, but we're not protecting and retaining what we have and making sure that stays clean, because that's the most important part of all.
We've been talking a lot about consumer application here, which makes sense given the fact that we're talking about connected TV. But Brian, you brought up B2B, and you also, at the time you brought up B2B, you brought up account-based marketing, ABM, which is sort of fascinating to me because these are really business applications. These are if somebody is working for in the construction business, and they want to hit employees of Lowe's or Home Depot, and not only from a B2B standpoint, but actually from an account-based marketing standpoint, the ability to use connected TV to do that, that kind of surgical application is so interesting. Can you tell us a little bit more about how B2B and ABM are being utilized? Because if I'm a fast channel, or if I'm producing content that is so niche that it might enable me to make money through a B2B application, I want to know about it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an interesting use case for OTT, CTV, and just the B2B and enterprise ABM space. There's a lot of acronyms there. Say that 5 times. Oftentimes you're trying to hit the decision makers, so you're going after like the CMO or the CTO or the CIO and their team, right? The CMO and his or her marketing team. You're also going after investors typically, so there's a lot outside of a video buy that happens in those campaigns, including conferences and billboards and transit and stuff like that. But yeah, it's because it's so targeted and it's programmatic, and we can deliver the message we want to deliver to with a pretty high degree of confidence to the right audience. It's not typically the biggest part of the plan, but it's I think it's a central piece of it for sure.
So Jeff, I think clearly you know, there's an opportunity in B2B, there's obviously B2C, ABM, what we're talking about here. A result of the fact that OTT opened up inventory in such an incredible way. There's more inventory available now than there ever has been. But along with that change, along with the upside of incredible amounts of inventory, there are shortcomings. What are some of the shortcomings that we have to deal with because of OTT?
Yeah, I mean, you know, we could start with what Chip was talking about, is the value of the data that you're using to make the informed decision. But beyond that, you know, there are just so many players in the marketplace. So we'll start with audience fragmentation, right? So more content, more channels, more devices fragments the audience. So now you've got to say, well, you know, where is the biggest concentration of my target, and what platform, and what programming, and what service, and what source. And so it makes the whole decision-making of what to buy process more difficult. Programmatic helps in certain ways, but a lot of the inventory is either not available programmatically, or not the premium inventory, or what you're really looking for. So there's a lot of discrepancies into how you're buying, where you're buying it from. You know, we've got clients, you know, major packaged goods, that their goal is 100% target reach, but they want to manage frequency at 3 or 4. Well, when you're buying across all of these channels and all these constituents, there's absolutely no way right now to manage that. There's not necessarily a common currency for buying. So we buy TV on GRPs, we buy OTT on generally impressions or something like that. There's not necessarily consistency in pricing, CPM, CPC, different things. So there's just a lot of both fragmentation in the consumers all the way down to the delivery mechanisms and the currency and the attribution and all that. So, you know, there's partners and vendors in the space that are working on consolidating that, but then, you know, you might see a huge inventory source like a YouTube or an Amazon or whatever that's not necessarily playing nicely with everybody else in this space. And so they become an outlier. You know, one of the things we try and do is build dashboards for all of our clients. And it's like, great, you can get all the data from 80% of your sources in this one feed, but the other 20 either won't play or won't whatever, and then all of a sudden you have fragmentation. So you're not even able to report on these things consistently. So, you know, same challenges that we've faced in social and display and everything else, and these things will work out, but you know, we're not at the pure science point yet. We're still now at this combination of art and science in terms of how we can look across the spaces from a planning, from a buying, an attribution and measurement standpoint.
Raquel, you had mentioned to me in our prep conversations that R Squared does a lot of multicultural work. And you talked a little bit about the creative. So taking one step back before the planning process actually begins, and you talked about how if you were marketing to a Hispanic car buyer in Los Angeles, that creative might be different than marketing to a Hispanic car buyer in the Bronx, or in Miami or New Orleans. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Well, we talked about the multicultural majority that we're all going to be facing soon, and what's brilliant about OTT is you can really create this niche audience. You can zone in on a super hyper-focused target audience. But what's sad is there's so much time and effort spent on planning, making sure you reach the intended target, but then we don't talk about messaging. And I think one of the worst examples I ever saw was, it was Hyundai nationally had hired an agency out of Florida, and they sent ads to the West Coast to debut a new Elantra, I think at the time. And it was like, oh, the ad was all in Spanish, and you're gonna love this coche. Well, if you're in LA and you speak Spanish like I do, that is not how you refer. It's carro. So their whole message and ad spend was a complete waste because anybody who is actually from South America or Mexico here in LA who speaks Spanish knows that's not the proper way to say it. And so when we look at multicultural, we have to be sensitive to, let's target the right people, but let's make sure the message syncs up. Because if you don't double check your messaging, all your time and effort in planning and measuring the success will be nil because you missed the
You could also do damage to your brand.
Actually, you're right, because it comes across as so desperate. You're tone deaf. It's the same way when a client comes and says, oh yeah, we got this budget, we want to reach Hispanics. And I said, okay, well, where's the budget for production? Oh, well, we're just going to translate our English spot into Spanish. I'm like, so you're going to have a bunch of white people in this spot, they don't look Hispanic or multicultural, and we're going to you find somebody else to help you with the project, right? You couldn't be more tone deaf, so, yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. I see a big 0 up there, so I'm assuming we're out of time. I don't know if we have
That's the
time
points
for
we earned,
questions.
0.
Is that why you went long this morning?
0, you're a big 0, Raquel, go home.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Pete. Thank you. Thank you.